Welcome everyone to another exciting new visual novel. This one's called A Sky Full of Stars, or if you want the Japanese name,見上げてごらん,夜空の星を. So I picked this up off of Steam because it was recommended to me, and it's said to be a sequel or similar to the other big game from Moe Novel called If Our Heart Had Wings. So this game was actually released in 2015 of December by Poltop, and it was recently translated to English and released on Steam by Moe Novel in 2017 of December. So while If Our Heart Had Wings dealt with flight, this game deals with astronomy. And I kind of like Poltop games because there's just this element that kind of makes it exciting. I think the BGM really helps, especially if the BGM's from 2.5. And that kind of explains why the Love Comedy Useless Goddess, it's okay, but it's not that great compared to the other games, including Love Comedy Divinity Stage. And looking forward, I hope to see Pure Song Garden. That's a pretty good game from Poltop. It kind of is like an elongated version of Divinity Stage because we deal with idols in a futuristic sense. And I'm not really sure about Kokoro Function, but that's also like a futuristic game. But putting that aside, let's see what this game has. So let's click start.
Oh, よろしくな.
Okay, here we come. Okay, so I hear the phone ringing. Yeah, this is Akito.
Akito, 外見て、外!
So what's outside? So rubbing the sleep from my eyes, I opened the foggy window, and when the cold breeze blew in and touched my face, it sent a chill down my spine. So what does the person want Akito to see? Well, obviously stars. But when I saw the stars twinkling outside, I snapped wide awake.
行こ
Yeah, so he's excited, and he wakes himself up and goes outside.
こんな時間からどこへ行く?
There is that grandfather. Of course, I don't think he's accepting of the idea that he's going out in the middle of the night. Well, Hikari and I, and so he's trying to find some reasonable explanation that gets the approval of his grandfather, which, well, in story sense, it's always difficult to get the approval of your grandfather or your parents, because they obviously have a different idea, and the fact that it's in the middle of the night, so they're supposed to be asleep until sunrise. But then, when sunrise comes, the stars are gone. Well, no, they're actually hidden by the daylight. Okay, so he doesn't even bother to talk to the grandfather about going out in the middle of the night. He just leaves. Okay, so who's Hikari? I rushed off, pedaling my bike with all my strength, and found Hikari waiting at the usual bridge. She was running around in circles like a dog chasing its own tail. So, is this her? Oh, so obviously the grandpa would be upset because they're still young and going on in the middle of the night is quite dangerous. So he's very worried about the security. As she yelled, her breath came out in clouds of white. So, where's Saya? Well, if we don't hurry, the sun will come up on us. I got worried and looked into the eastern sky, but it was still so dark. I never would have known it was almost dawn if she hadn't said so. It was like, well, there's some sunlight to help us along the way, but we have to get a look at the stars before the sunlight covers the view of the stars. Okay, so Saya's here. Well, late in the sense that they're not going to get much time to see the stars before sunrise. Okay, hop on. So, obviously, Saya's tired to try to make it to the meeting place in time. So, Akito's going to carry her to the well, let's see where they're gonna go. So we put our stuff in the basket, and Saya climbed onto the cargo rack. Then Hikari climbed up as well, holding onto Saya from behind. So I think they're riding bicycles, and they loaded Saya in the basket in the front. Hikari squeezed Saya even closer to me, even though she was already pressed onto my back. Because I wonder who's the one that's going to be pushing them up the hill. Yeah. So I put my feet on the pedals and guided my bike across the bridge onto the dark mountain road beyond. We suddenly picked up speed and went flying through the wind. Okay, so it's one bike. Akito's the one that's pedaling. And he's carrying both Hikari and Saya. Yeah, that must require lots of power. But at least he was able to push the bike up to a decent speed to the point where wind is really blowing against Saya and Hikari. And the wind's cold, so. It's like it's so cold that they might get windburn. Hey, Saya, press your face onto my back. Okay. Oh, so on top of that, not only he has to pedal and carry 3 people, the surface that he's riding the bike on is pretty rough. So he has to work really, really hard to get through all those potholes and cracks in the sorts. And the fact that he has to go uphill. Wow. Hey, Hikari, help me out. Oh, okay, so Hikari gets off the bike and pushes the bicycle up. Well, there is something called a tandem bike. I wonder if they actually considered that before buying this one, the single rider. So what happened? Hey, Saya, hold on tight. Okay. With a burst of added speed, our bike left the mountain road and passed through an overgrown meadow, heading to the middle of the forest. When the trail finally became too much for the bike, we threw it aside and set out on foot. So I think the path has gotten too steep to ride up the hill, so now they have to walk the rest of the way. And soon, the forest gave way to So what's this? A large black silhouette resting quietly in the dark as if it were a sleeping beast. It was a train car. So they're trying to ride up the hill to get a better view of the stars. And they're looking for this clearing somewhere up the hill. And instead they found some kind of train. And it looks kind of old and looks rusted. We were at a train station clinging to the mountain slope. It felt deserted, not only because it was so early. I wonder if it's still in service. No one used the station anymore. It was totally abandoned. Hikari climbed up onto the roof of the decommissioned train car, standing at the platform. Okay, so, I think Akito let her up first. Followed by Saya. So Saya finally made it to the out of the forest trail and approached the platform. Come on, take my hand. So they're gonna use this train car as like a platform to look at the stars. So they gave Saya a hand since she couldn't climb up on her own. Watch where you step. Oops. Okay, so she slips. So Hikari grabbed Saya's hand from above as she lost her footing almost immediately. Okay, so at least Hikari rescued Saya. So with our help, Saya finally climbed onto the roof, and I followed after. So what do you think, Hikari? I think it's just too much for her to comment. So while she waited for me to climb up, Hikari scanned the horizon. From up here, our field of view was wide open, and we could see all the way to the distant area, or the distant sea. However, to the naked eye, the sky was still as dark as midnight. It was hard to make out the sea from the sky. I wonder if there's a moon that can shine the sea. Well, even so, the sky was clear and countless tiny points of light twinkled above. Hikari was searching for the morning star among them. What's that? Wait, is that one? So which one? Okay, so there is a moon. In the eastern sky, just above the horizon, the crescent moon drew its slender arc. Just next to it, shining with a light unmatched even by the sky's only fixed star, let's see, Sirius. I think it's, yeah, Sirius, with a single bright point. We spread out our equipment and quickly started getting ready. So they're on top of the train car. You can see all these air conditioning vents. Okay, so you have to be quick on this because the timing has to be right. Otherwise, the sun's gonna ruin the chance to gaze at the stars. Hey, don't rush. We set up the tripod and the stand. Next, with practiced hands, we assembled the telescope. Okay, I'm just gonna give it a few minutes to let it pan to the telescope. So, they were carrying this pretty heavy equipment, the telescope, up this hill. And I'm not sure how they were able to get it onto the top of the train, but it looks like with a combined effort, they were able to get this equipment up on the train. And now, They're trying to get it all ready so that they can see this see the stars. Okay, so let's just continue from here. It wasn't difficult. When we finished, I pointed at the telescope at the star we had just looked at and looked through the finder scope. I centered it on that shining heavenly body, so the Sirius star. Then I looked to the eyepiece. However, I did not see the object in my field of vision. It was because the finder scope's optical axis was not aligned. I would just have to rely on my own senses to hone in on the heavenly body. So when you look at a field of vision in a much smaller scope, it's sometimes hard to find the object that you're looking at. So he has to basically center it on his own. And I think the finder scope, it also zooms in, but from a much smaller scale, so that you can see a whole field of vision. It allows him or Akito to basically center it so that when he uses the larger telescope, he can zoom in on the correct object. So now he found the object, and so this is the moon. And he's like it's waning. Oh, it's Venus. Oh, where? Show me. So Hikari's interested. Okay, hold on. So I changed out the lens to increase the magnification and adjusted the focus. The blurry figure of Venus leaped into clarity. That's definitely Venus, and it's waning. It's so bright. Okay, so Akito's probably looking at Venus all to himself, and he needs to let Hikari take a look as well. Oh, hush, here you go. Okay, so now he's gonna give it to her. So now Saya wants to see Venus as well. Okay, so now Hikari's hogging the telescope to herself now. After we took turns looking through the telescope, I opened our notebook and handed it over to Saya. So while Hikari held the flashlight for her, Saya drew a sketch of Venus. Nice. In star observations, you don't just stop after viewing an object once. So I think they're trying to track all the phases of a Venus. You see, it goes from waxing crescent to waning crescent. You have to note how the object moves, how it looks, and how it changes or does not change. You keep records over days, over weeks. This book was our planetary observation journal. You will never have or never know without looking through a telescope. But Venus waxed and waned like the moon. Its apparent size could change sixfold. Well, the fact that Venus, like Earth, is rotating around the sun, and depending on how the Venus, Earth, and its position relative to the sun, it can look like how Venus is expanding or contracting, just like the moon. But then again, the moon rotates relative to the Earth, or it travels relative to the Earth. Its location in the sky also changes, so there were times where you could not see it all. We kept the record for ages, but lately we had not been able to see the planets due to rain and clouds. So obviously, clouds and weather is always an issue when you do stargazing, or Venus gazing. It had been 2 weeks since our last entry. Very soon, Venus will begin rising later and later, and it'll be difficult to see. So that's why we had to hurry today. The forecast for this morning had been overcast again, so I had given up, setting my alarm for the usual time and went to bed. But for whatever reason, Hikari ignored the forecast and woke up early, and we owed her big time. So the idea that the weather forecast is not always accurate, and even though I'm pretty sure the news said that it was going to be overcast, cloudy, sometimes you have to take the forecast as a grain of salt. You never know what actually happens, and there may be a chance of luck that Hikari was pretty much hoping for to see Venus. And that's why she called him early in the morning. So Hikari's like, it looks like the moon, doesn't it? So looking through the telescope, Venus was so bright that it was almost blinding, and it was waning like the moon. Okay, so Saya drew the shape carefully. As she did, the sky gradually began to lighten, so I think sunrise is coming. There you go. So it's dawn, so sunrise is coming. And then Hikari realized that it's cold. So it was 6 in the morning, the coldest part of the day. So usually the coldest part of the day is right before sunrise. And then the sun heats up the atmosphere. And then once the sun sets, the temperature drops again. It was so cold even the slightest breeze felt like it was freezing you. The three of us huddled together to fight the cold. I wonder how chocolates are going to help. And I brought some bread for breakfast.
温かいココア入れてきたの。
Okay, I guess that helps. Hot cocoa? Or hot chocolate? So we shared our food and looked over our observation notes. So there were stories about our entries showing Venus in full, as if, as well as its waning with the dates entered. So later we would color in today's entry and write down everything else that we've observed. So today's entry, with Venus in rendezvous with the crescent moon, was a wonderful addition to our observations.
こうやって見るとちっちゃな点なのに望遠鏡だとお月様みたいに見えるんだね。
So when you look at this, it looks like a tiny dot. But through the telescope, it looks like the moon.
不思議だね。
When you take time to observe, you can take note of the wonders around you. And there are also puzzles in place to solve. So Mercury and Venus wax and wane like the moon. Well, depending on how it's oriented with Earth relative to the Sun. Because like Earth, the Sun only shines up to like half of the planet. So that's because the two planets orbit closer to the Sun than the Earth does. I wonder about Mars though. So changes in the way the Sun's light shines on them makes it look like they are waxing and waning. There you go. They are always near the Sun, rising at dawn and setting at dusk. That's why you can't see these two planets in the middle of the night. I wonder what happens if Mercury and Venus are on the other side of the Sun. Because if they're like about 180 degrees away from Earth, so on the other side of the Sun, then I wonder if it's possible to see those two planets. So it's probably during a certain time of the year where you're only allowed, you can see Mercury and Venus right next to the Sun. So even as the deep indigo of the winter sky began to lighten, Venus still shone brilliantly. That's why it's often called the morning star. Okay, so the morning star. It announces the dawn. So it's like when you see Venus, that means sunrise is about to happen. So shining serenely in the morning sky as it does, even without a telescope, it was beautiful. Yet, as brilliantly as it shines, when the sun comes up, it will surely fade into the greater light like all the other stars. So once the sunlight shines onto Earth, you can't really see Venus anymore. Because the light's going to overpower, or the light from the sun's going to overpower the light from Venus. Our observation journal is almost done. On other pages, we had sketches of Mars, Jupiter and the moons, and Saturn's rings. We'd even written about the other planets, the ones that look like tiny dots even in the telescope, that we've researched in the library.
諸君、 1年間の観測ミッションお疲れ様でした。
Okay.
あとはこれをレポートにまとめるだけだね。
So I wonder if this is an assignment for something. Just a little more work and our grand project will be finished. So I wonder if it's a school project or something, or maybe they just want to do it for fun. It was a little premature, but a huge feeling of accomplishment grew within me, and soon I felt warm enough to forget the cold. So Hikari suddenly stood up and pointed at the brightening horizon.
この列車は空を行く銀河鉄道天文台。太陽系を征服しても我ら3人の旅はまだまだ終わらない。
Okay, that sounds pretty nice. Strong-willed, I would say.
さあ、銀河の謎を解き明かすべく次なる目的地へ向かおう。
I wonder if she's gonna build the next great telescope of outer space. I know they're trying to replace the Hubble Space Telescope because that's been used to its maximum potential, and now they want to go even further into space, and that's beyond the limits of what the Hubble Space Telescope can do. So Saya clapped her hands happily. I stood up awestruck at Hikari's face illuminated in the dim light of dawn and felt a sense of hope. Right. I felt we could go anywhere. We could solve the mysteries of outer space. I felt like we could reach out our hands and catch the stars. The three of us. As long as Hikari is here. And that's the name of this game, The Sky Full of Stars. And I guess this is where I should stop episode 1. That was a pretty good point to stop. So, it looks like we have Hikari who's strong, determined. She has a really big dream that she wants to venture out into space. And given that she's already been very productive, writing journal entries, and actually taking note of everything that she sees through the telescope, and observing how Venus and Mercury and the planets they look on Earth, that's a lot for little kids to do. But I think that's the prologue, and we're probably gonna see what happens in current times. So I will be continuing this. I think this is a good sequel to the other game that I'm currently working on, which is If Our Heart Had Wings. And we'll see what happens going from here. So with that in mind, I'll see you in the next episode.